Here we go. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is John Alden, Chair of the City of Essex Junction DRB. I am going to read a short message here regarding the meeting format. It is a hybrid meeting. This meeting of the Essex Junction DRB will come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically at 2 Lincoln Street, where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. One member of this public body or other staff is present at 2 Lincoln Street, and we have actually a whole board here. Others can participate remotely if desired. Please note that while we strive to provide for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote participation.
Hold on one second, John. Sorry. So, Scott, Harriet is asking us.
Get to do it all over again. That was your practice run.
I'm not doing that. I have to do this every meeting. All right. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by using the chat feature on Zoom or by emailing rmahoney@essexjunction.org. And in the event of technical difficulties that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to December 15th at 6:30 p.m. at this location. There's more. Please note that all the votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by a roll call vote in accordance with the law. As required by the open meeting law, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance of all members participating in the meeting, and those members attending remotely identify themselves to ensure that they can hear and be heard throughout the meeting. Okay, John Alden, I'm present.
Kristen Gilday.
Rob Mount.
Maggie Massey.
Anyone remotely on the DRB?
He said he'd try to be remote, but I don't know.
Yep, he's not on as best as I can tell.
So 4 members. Do we have 5 or 7?
5.
5. Okay, so we have a quorum. Good. All right, so the meeting's called to order. I say let's get going. Item number 1 is audience for visitors. That is the point where people who have something to say about an item that is not on our agenda tonight can approach and speak. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about something not on the agenda? Seeing none. Anybody on remotely that would like to say something about an item not on our agenda tonight? I'll take that also as a no. All right, additions or amendments to the agenda. Regina, anything?
I do not have anything.
Public to be heard, isn't that the same thing?
Sorry.
All right, minutes. Regular meeting of July 21st, 2022. They were in your packet. I was not there, but I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second. Yep.
Any discussion or changes to the minutes? None. All in favor of the minutes as issued?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Public hearing, item number 5. Approval for a minor site plan amendment and approval extension of a PUD for 6 residential units with parking at 41 Maple Street in the R2 district by Gabe Handy, owner. And I see members present, ready to speak for Gabe. So come on up, Dave.
Being sworn in.
I gotta do that, don't I? It's that's the one thing I asked for, to have
That is
sit in front of me.
well, you've gone very fast. You've skipped to step H on page 2.
Switch the screws.
It's year 5, but it's my first rodeo.
Do you see it?
H.
Gray highlighted.
Oh, yeah. All right. Anybody wishing to speak tonight on the motion in front of us, or the agenda item in front of us, please raise your right hand and answer in the affirmative after I read the statement. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Very good. Anybody else thinking they might speak tonight? I do.
I do.
Thank you. All right, great.
You want to ask folks online?
Anyone online? Apparently not.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
Sure. So David Burke, O'Leary Burke, as you said, this is 6 units. The parcel is at 41 Maple Street, and it's in the R2 zoning district. The R2 zoning district allowed for these 6 units as far as the density. The original approval did not include any setback waivers. Each of the units was approved inside of what's called a footprint lot. And the footprint lot is solely so that the unit sits on land it owns. Everything outside of the footprint lot is in common. So each of the future owners will own 1/6 of everything outside of their footprint. So as far as what we're here for tonight, as John mentioned, it's 2 things. One is the Mylar. When a project gets approved, within a certain period of time, a Mylar of the property plat gets submitted and the chair signs it. And in this case, the city of Essex sends it over to Essex for filing in their land records. Our office did provide the Mylar. The Mylar did not get passed on to be signed. So it was something internal that did not happen. But the Mylar was provided, and this is to make it official. That plat was found downstairs within the last month, so it never made it over to the town offices. The other item is the difference in the style of the units. So in the submission, this is 6 units on this site is pretty tight. And there was no setback waivers. Everything met the conventional setbacks for the R2 district. But the plan that was used for the house came from our office. I was trying to find something that was this small because these are small units. And what I found was a 1.5-story building. And that's what was submitted as part of the package. The approval, there was discussion at the meeting. John may recall, there's discussion about design review. Design review does not apply to this district. So the overarching requirement for this is that the buildings are less than the maximum height. So a 2-story building meets the regulations. The building permit, the building permits were submitted, and unfortunately, Mr. Bushy did not submit anything with the building permits. Submitted the building permits. Unfortunately, former staff approved those building permits, apparently with the assumption that those samples that were given during the process were what was going to be built. That's not what I hear from Mr. Handy. He says there was full knowledge of the two-story before they started. Former staff saw these units in Winooski and said they were fine. At the end of the day, it's unfortunate that that this occurred, but the regulations do not preclude two-story or even a little bit higher than two-story. So they do meet the requirements. The only condition of the former approval was that I think, John, I recall that you said, yes, design review does not apply. It would be nice if there's different colors. That worked itself into the approval. So the only building related condition in the approval was they should be different colors, and they are. There's 6 different colors. So that's what this is.
Any other information coming from the applicant at this point?
The units were staked by our office. They're within the approved footprints.
And as far as I can tell, so I have the original submission from the last presentation. I've got the new one. In my opinion, the footprints are the same. They don't.
Footprints haven't changed.
I
and-
don't have.
Yep.
I wouldn't have made you change the plat personally, but I understand that that was recommended, so that's been done. I also love the idea that we have design review in this area, which we don't yet. That's a change that was recommended and made to be offered in the new version, but that doesn't apply because it's not in place yet. So I feel like we're in a very awkward position that we thought something was going to happen. It's not happened. Something was approved by somebody who's not here anymore. Now we have, they're built, they're there. So the hardship would be enormous to fix that. And based on this approval that we think we have given you as a municipality, it'd be hard pressed for us to tell you to do something about it, I think. So I'm looking for information. Regina, is there any staff comment on this that helps us with this? I mean, the worst part about it for me is precedent, but hopefully this will, I don't know what to say. So hopefully there's I think legally this is fine, but I don't like it.
Yeah, so there is a memo from me in the packet, and addressing these 2 separate issues. This was approved as a planned unit development, and there is a section of design review within the planned unit development within your zoning regulations. So it's different than what you're thinking of, which is the design overview. But I think the point remains that 2 stories are very much a allowable use in this zoning district. So I don't think there's anything that has with the buildings that are not in compliance with the land development code. So in terms of making an amendment, I think it's we recommend that the amendment is in line with the land development code that you've got. I was just one other thing I just want to clarify, that the subdivision approval has to happen because there's no adjustment of how much time you have from approving your subdivision and getting the Mylar recorded. So that's why the item on the table is to just extend the approval timeline of the subdivision. That's the only reason, because it's the only way to make the
So that's
Mylar
really
happen
all we're here
legally.
for. So basically, the approval was done, the Mylar wasn't filed, we need to get it filed. In the meantime, the project was built, it's still in compliance with the land development code. Staff apparently approved the changes to the design, which are in footprint and in execution that you can't really tell except when you look at them. They're different than an image people saw before. Which that's the only part, you know, like normally, since we don't actually have purview over that, it's hard to say that's wrong. Right? Because we can't actually make a decision based on what they look like because it's not part of our review process in this district at this time. However, you know, it's we've had a few instances in the past where that's, you know, somebody shows us a drawing, we all get excited, and then they build something else. And somehow we've got to fix that. This doesn't seem like the one where that applies because we're not actually supposed to see that image in this district.
Yeah, I think that the specific elevation is not a component of the design review in the planned unit development section of the LDC. Elevations are a component of the
Yeah.
design overview.
I would say, John, that it's hearsay as far as former staff. I think it, you know, being okay with it or not. You know, I don't really think that that's part of tonight. It's, as I said, it's unfortunate. Those units were for the size of the units. But I know that there was discussion, including from myself, that what was provided was a 1.5-story building. I think because there was no design review, there wasn't anything specific in the approval that they must be 1.5 stories. There wasn't, you know, because there couldn't be. The regulations didn't allow you to have something like that in there. In fact, it didn't even allow the requirement, a strong requirement for difference in colors. It became a recommendation, and I think is a good recommendation. At the end of the day, they're within the approved footprints. They're the same size. They have a front porch. So it's the difference between the 1.5 stories that was presented and the 2-story.
Board members, anyone have any questions or comments?
I do not.
Any legal questions, any technical questions? Members of the public. Would anybody like to comment? Tina?
So I attended the meeting with the original plan design, and it was as hard as it was to swallow because we are neighbors that are literally right behind where the properties are exactly 8 feet away from my property line. And we are looking at large 2-story homes that are glaring in our backyards. They're not aesthetically pleasing. And we were told they'd be 1.5 stories. We have a 1.5 story farmhouse. And we're looking at these very tall buildings that affect our backyard, our lighting in our backyard, the lighting that goes through our windows in our living room. And it's just been really discouraging because through this entire process, we feel like we've been misled about what was being built, how it was being built. And we were also told that there would be, you know, plants and things that would be more aesthetically pleasing. Nothing looks great back there. And now we're concerned. Originally, it was single-family homes. They don't have garages. I don't know who's going to purchase them without garages and walking to the back with groceries and everything. And I guess my concern now is I'd like to know, what is the intention? Are they going to be rentals? Are they going to be, you know, how many families are going to live in these buildings? And it's definitely 2 stories, the houses, and we're just feeling frustrated because we've been citizens there for 20 some years, and We just feel like things just keep sliding under the table and getting passed through, and we don't hear about these things until it's too late, and there's nothing we can do about it, and it's been frustrating. So, we planted plants to try to, grow tall for privacy, but you still can't cushion sound when people start living there. In these 6 houses in a 5-lot piece of land. I understand the need that we need housing. We have a lot of empty apartments that it seems like maybe that aren't being filled. And I'm just wondering, at what price are these going to go for? Can people even afford them? Anyway, it is what it is, but I'm hoping that for the people that are directly affected by it, that some consideration will be taken into, making things as aesthetically pleasing and also being thoughtful about the border, because it's literally 8 feet from my property line. And when you have a big 2-story building that's 8 feet from your small property, 1/4 of an acre, not even, it's very, it has a large impact for sure. So I guess that's just, we just want to know, what are the true intentions? Where is this going? And, we can only have supposedly a 6-foot fence. Well, a 6-foot fence does not buffer very much at all. And the fence is getting worn looking, stockade. It would be nice if there could be a stronger, better fence that could be, improved upon. I believe it can't be higher, but if it could, that would be nice. It's going to take a few years for our plants to grow to try to get some privacy, because we have no privacy now. And we didn't choose to buy an apartment. I mean, we bought our property to be just, anyway. Thank you.
There,
Yes.
can I ask some questions?
Sure.
And maybe this can be either the applicant or you. I'm looking at the pictures. I'm looking at what we approved as the site plan. The new plat that's in front of me has no landscaping on it, but maybe the drawings still do. Are the plantings that are shown on the applicant's side of the fence there yet? Have they been installed?
Are you asking me? So
well-
so we bought 8 large arboretums.
For
to
your side.
grow for our side. And on the other side are these little tiny ones. And the thing is, those things need to be watered regularly to be taken care
So
of.
these little
Don't die
2 foot
out.
high
Yeah,
ones
they're
are the
little.
ones that, Dave, is that?
So the approval required that the landscaping plan be done by a landscape professional. So there was landscaping on the plan that was approved, but a condition was that it be redone to be reviewed by staff. So TJ Boyle Associates did a landscape plan. My understanding is that all of that land that was approved, that was provided and approved. And my understanding is that all of that is in. We just on Tuesday had our survey crew go out and do a bunch of locations, including the landscaping. So a follow-up separate from this, a follow-up with Regina is a record drawing. So we'll find out if everything's there, but we've been told that everything per that plan is there.
I'm just struggling to imagine that a 2 foot high planting behind a 6 foot high fence even was worth planting. So
Yeah, I don't know what, offhand what the sizes were supposed to be also, so that'd be part of what we'd be looking at.
but I think I'm also looking at the images. Is it true that there are no windows on the second floor of the units facing So you're looking at
Yes.
just siding kind of
Yep.
above the.
And we are looking at, on the bottom floor, there's a large window on our side, so there's definitely, windows, like, we're definitely gonna need to.
I mean, is there a fence in place now?
There's there's a 6-foot stockade fence.
And
that
so you can still see over the
Yeah.
see the windows.
But I am thankful, and I was appreciative when we saw the second story going up, when we thought it was just going to be 1.5, like a little loft. I was appreciative that there weren't windows on that side that looks directly into our backyard up above. So I am thankful for that and appreciative of that.
Anyone else in the audience? Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm Todd Logan. I live in Essex, 8 McGregor with Tina. Tina's my wife. We keep saying that this is unfortunate. And what's unfortunate is we have 6 behemoth structures smashed into a shoebox lot. And at night, they're so brightly lit, they're so illuminated that it looks like we're looking at 3 or 4 drive-in movie screens in our backyard, because it's like all wall, and in particular, behind our house, it's like a bright yellow house, so it's just like a big, huge white screen. There's a lot of light pollution, and I can only imagine the noise pollution that will be when we have 6 families. It just seems to me that every step of the way, the legality, this project has gone right to the edge of legality and just backed off a little. It's just this side of being legal. It's like, 1.5 stories. Great. Well, we're just gonna, we could do 2 stories, I guess. It's legal. I mean, we would be within our legal rights to build that extra whole story, and then so that voila, lo and behold, then we have 6 full 2-story houses, which were never approved initially, and all we can do is say, that's unfortunate. Could we petition to have a taller fence than 6 feet? There's a 6-foot stockade fence, and I understand that the zoning says no, you cannot have fences higher than 6 feet, but I just feel like corners have been cut, lies have been weaved all the way through this project, and it's, Tina's really nice. It's really aggravating, and now to know that Handy or Bushy signed it over to Handy, I was even wondering if this meeting was going to be about letting us know that they're actually partitioning each of these houses into 2 different apartments, because Handy is, Mr. Apartment, and I'm wondering, do we have any guarantee that that's not going to happen?
To defer to Regina on that. Can they turn a single dwelling unit into a double without some type of approval?
The density is 6. They can't, and they're for sale. It's not, whether they're rented or for sale is not part of this process, but
Yeah.
they are for sale, and they're single family, and they can't be anything else.
Okay. Because but there's been construction people in there working far late into the night, all summer long. And I could only imagine that what they're doing, and we know there's 2 bathrooms in those houses. So it doesn't take too much imagination to say, well, we're going to have a bathroom apartment up above, and there's a bathroom apartment down there. And I'm wondering if that's what's been going with all the noise and the hammering and the middle of the night. I'm talking like all night long.
Don't we have noise regulations for work hours?
Potentially.
And I just feel like this got way down the road before it came to the attention of anybody who was listening, and not certainly, I drove by them, you know, a few times and went, wow, I didn't know they were going to look like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I would
and-
invite you to come into our backyard, step into our backyard, and look at these 6
Yeah,
dinosaurs.
but the lighting piece bothers me a lot too because, you know, the goal was to have lighting for the safety of people walking around, and so we switched it
understand
to the
that.
bollards, and just the bollards are driving me nuts because when you drive by them at night, you know, they're not down shielded to the point where you can't see them. You know, you're
No.
seeing them, so I'm wondering like how's that work because that's all you see are just the bright lights. So I think that lighting is kind of a issue for me, but I can't imagine that they're on all night and they're gonna just illuminate the sides of the
They are
houses.
on all night. I get up several times to go to the bathroom, and I see them every single time.
Yeah. So I hear you on the lighting piece. I hear you on the planting piece because, you know, the plantings appear to be there and they appear to match, you know, the dots on the
Yeah.
planting page here, but they clearly aren't doing anything for screening.
No, I feel like in good they in good faith, yes, we put plants in the ground, but nobody's been watering them. Plants, when you put arborvitaes in the ground, you've got to water them every day for the first year, or they will just wither and die. And no one's going to take care of these plants the way we've been trying to nurture our plants on our side of the fence. And I'm really concerned, and I'm really angry that there is a zoning, there's a legality of a 6-foot fence that we have to live with, even though Bushy has been able to stretch way over their line, and we just have to say, well, what are we going to do? I mean, it's within the legal limits, so geez, that's unfortunate. I mean, it's not just us. I mean, there are like 4 houses, and then on the other side of the street, on Maple Street, there's all those other apartments. Everybody, there's so many people that are being affected by these massive structures. And if these massive structures have houses that, you know, if these guys, if the inhabitants of these houses are all neighborly and they love each other and they get along great, that's going to be wonderful. But if you have 6 houses that are smashed together, I call them, they have moat lots. It's like there's a grass moat around each house. That's all they get. You know, you get people that are not going to start bickering with each other. You know.
I'll probably push back a little bit on the density and the house type because it's all fine. I mean, it's allowed. It's within the requirements of what we've asked for. We were happy to see that somebody was pushing the density that's allowed in the district. So I'm not sure I can follow you with that. I'm a little disappointed and underwhelmed by the execution of the buildings themselves. They're a little stark.
They're ugly.
But again, I've got my hands tied on that in terms of our regulations since I can't.
And what
can't-
about, so
but-
there could be no exceptions made for fencing that goes up? to the neighbors?
I'm not sure about that. It seems like the fencing, I know there's a height, something in there before I mean, I always thought it was, well, you can put up a 6-foot fence, but if it's bigger than that, you need to get approval for it. So maybe we can look at that and find some way to make a fencing option at least more. I mean, the issue normally is I have a residential use on one side and a residential use on the other, and that's been going on forever, so that shouldn't be an issue. But clearly, this is a change that's more impactful than was represented, even if it's legal. That maybe there's some redress that we can look at because
It would be nice if we could get a fence that was as high as the top of the window, because we do have a huge two-pane window that looks like maybe it's their living room. And it's probably more than half of that window is above our fence line. And it's like staring us right into our house. And literally, I mean, if I reached over the fence, I could almost touch it with my hands.
8 feet. So the 8 feet's a normal setback anywhere in the village. So I don't really have any.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that it's not legal. I'm just saying that
it's
It
a
was
little
decent
surprising the
push,
way it
so-
came out is what I think we're all surprised at the way it actually came out. So I guess I would go back to the other options that are normally available to us as as mitigation measures for when buffers are desirable, and that usually is fencing and landscaping. I would think that we'd want to allow a little bit more fencing and buffering if we can. And I definitely want something done about the lights. I don't think that's any way something that we should have to live with, to have. I mean, essentially, you as at your seated height in a car, those are like spotlights coming at you, and that it doesn't feel like it. I mean, I don't think we let people do that. I don't care if you're in an airplane, you can't see them. The average person walking by is got glare, and that's not the intention of the lighting. You know, I don't know what they're missing. Are they missing a shield or something? Do you know anything about that, Dave?
I don't yet, but one of the follow-ups that Regina's asked for outside of this on the locations that we did is it does not appear that the bollards that went in are the bollards that were approved, which do that. So those will have to get replaced if they're not.
Yeah, I the ones I'm used to seeing have a
kind of a
cone-shaped
kind of a
shade or
cone. Yeah.
something that really, you want the light on the ground. You don't
Yeah.
need it on the
It's more
sides of the
that you're
building.
walking towards the light instead of an illumination thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what are we actually here for? We're here to extend the date on the filing of the plat. That's really the only thing that we can do?
Yeah, I mean, the other components of the approval are, like Dave just said, they will be done and addressed before CO. So that's the pinpoint. If the lights are like upcast instead of downcast, that's definitely not what was likely approved, and so that'll get corrected.
Can we shut them off for now, just so the neighbors aren't blinded every time they look out the back door? Is there any reason to leave the lights on? And if there's any more hammering at night, I would think that's
I wouldn't think they need to be on until the first sale, so I can ask if they can be turned off.
My only concern would be if we just turn them off and then that makes it easier for everybody to live with. When the first people who move in, they're just going to turn them right back on
We
again.
still need to address the
Yeah.
style, so that
Yeah.
before CO, that still needs to be addressed.
Perfect.
And I will say, I believe with the story and a half, and again, it was done for the footprint. These aren't behemoths, they're 30 by 32, they're small structures, but I understand in the backyard that close, it looks big, but that's a small structure.
Think of the Champlain Valley Fair. When the fair comes to town, it's a massive display. When they pack up and leave, you go, how did all of that fit in this little yard? It's just like filling that yard with fair.
The story and a half units had windows on the ends, which would have been more of an impact than not having windows on the second floor.
Okay, well,
So the
we're still
landscaping
looking
is
at,
met. I don't believe the board has any abilities there. Staff's recommended approval.
Yeah.
so we can't do anything about getting better landscaping or getting proper larger trees?
well, I just don't even know what to say, because the whole point of doing the landscaping thing and having a professional landscaper do it and then having staff approve it would be to get proper landscaping. And if that's all happened and we don't have that, then there's the kind of thing that it tells me is never accept a plan again until we're happy with the landscaping. So staff will never again have any purview over anything, which is a burden on everyone.
I think
So-
there's a lot of in between those two things you just said.
Well,
There
I
are
don't have.
definitely things staff
I
could
don't
still
like
have
it when
purview.
people come in front of us and are very unhappy or we're unhappy or everyone's unhappy. It's just not fair. So,
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% agree that further practice in the future is that you have a landscaping plan in front of you that you like before you close the hearing.
I'll go on record that I'm not happy either. But that's, I mean, the word I used was unfortunate, but I'm not happy about it.
yeah.
It's, yeah.
Can we have a little chat with Gabe before this CO happens? I mean, I don't know what legally we have the ability to do, but I'm frustrated that our legal hands are tied and we're all unhappy. I know
What if
I don't want to put you on the spot either, but how about we'll see if anybody in the audience has anything to say, would like to say anything.
You do have another hand up online.
Oh, all right, let's do that. Anyone online?
Hi, yeah, my name's Barney Matthews. I live at 43 Maple. I just want to echo what people have been saying about the lights. With the plans that we saw with the plants, it was going to block everything from our side of the property to 41. The lights are blinding, like they're crazy bright. So it would be really good to do something about that. I'd like to comment on a couple of things that I had heard. Somebody had mentioned about the noise when working. I mean, we are literally next door to them, and I have to say that the workers were good. Like they were working long hours, and there were lights on, but I didn't hear any noise. So I say that is good. The other thing I want to throw out there is there's a right of way from our property from 43 to 41 for the houses, and our deeds say that there can be 5 houses on that plot, and they built 6. I don't know legally if our deed has any saying over that, but I just want to throw that out there.
Or that your deed on your property would have any impact on somebody else's property, unless it was all part of one subdivision. And when the subdivision was made, there should be legally binding information on each parcel affected. So I don't know anything about that. Has anybody heard do you know anything about that, Dave?
I heard that before.
And I don't think it came up at our last meeting, so
I was here for that.
you're at 43 Maple?
Yeah, and it just says for the right of way because it's still our driveway that they go over. The right of way says it's for 5 houses.
So,
Another wrinkle.
yep. I would say that is a potential legal issue. It's not necessarily a city issue. The lot can legally hold 6 units on it, which is what it's approved for, but that doesn't, I'm not going to comment on whether there's a civil issue there or not.
Yeah. I think my biggest gripe at the moment is the lights because they're super bright.
All right, I'll go back to the board members. Any comment at this point? Any additional comments?
I did have a question probably for Barney. It's just on his house's property. There's the landscaping plan shows 6-foot Australian pines between his property and the site. Is that what you have there?
That was,
Absolutely not.
that's not.
That's the old one?
That's the old.
This is the old one.
landscaping plan. That's not the TJ Boyle plan.
And so the TJ Boyle plan was filed somewhere in the
Yep,
city office,
yep.
and I'd love to see it, I guess, but
Could I ask a question?
oh, thanks. Yes. Question.
The plans that you approved were only ever like bird's eye view looking down?
We had renderings,
From
of
the ground looking across?
not specifically, no, they presented a image of a typical 1.5 story.
From the ground, if I was standing on the ground looking at a 1.5 story?
Yeah, it wasn't set on the site.
And
or
that was what
anything.
was approved, and yet we have the 2 stories?
That's,
Because I was going to suggest.
I don't know how, I mean, this has all happened without coming back to the planning commissioner, the DRB now in this case. So it's all brand new to us.
Okay.
We don't understand what happened in there, and we don't know what the sequence of events were, but the testimony is that it was shown to staff. It's hearsay at this point because staff is not available.
Who is staff?
Staff was Robin Pierce, the former community development director / planning director, and he's no longer employed.
Because I was just thinking that going forward for future plans, you'd think that you'd want a ground level view as well as a bird's eye view, especially for things like landscaping.
Well,
If
you
the
see,
ground
that's-
level, if the ground level view shows like trees that are kind of like going up so high, you just see a circle when you're looking at the architecture.
Yeah, though I'll say that that's one thing that we've pushed for in the rewrite of the rules for the land development code is that while that sounds great, it's not actually required in most of the districts in the city. It's doesn't give us the ability to review those images or even consider that information. So
You can
it's
only
kind of
consider
handy.
bird's eye view information.
We have the bird's eye view information on the plantings. It relies on us knowing what the plantings are, which usually takes somebody labeling the drawing and saying this is a, either a certain caliper around the planted trunk or a certain height. So they measure trees in a couple of different ways or shrubs.
Okay.
So usually we get that information, and if we have we do have planting books, and it'll tell us what the mature height is and so on, and how long it takes us to get there. So we would know that, and we would be able to understand whether or not the plantings are going to achieve the screening that we're trying to achieve. And in this case, without, with the planting plan being resubmitted after the approval, I'm seeing this for the first time right now. So if it's been given, I mean, there's some bigger trees here, there's some smaller shrubs in the screening locations between these buildings and the neighboring buildings. So a TO is a dark American arborvitae in common name, and they're supposed to be 5 feet high. And they can actually grow to 25. So until I see something 5 feet high, I'm not sure the planting plan has been installed as approved.
And as Gina said, that'll be part of
Yeah.
the CO.
What is the
The,
CO?
the certificate of occupancy to make sure that the improvements went in the way they were supposed to.
Who will be responsible for grooming the plants and caring for them?
The owner is responsible for maintaining the plants in a healthy condition.
That are in their moat area?
They've got the whole thing. So the PUD means that besides the footprint lot, which is only a couple of feet larger than the building itself, is common space. So the common owner, whoever that is, and we also asked for a copy of the homeowners association guides, which would require them to maintain the plantings. So both, I mean, if the perimeter outline around each footprint of the building gives the individual owner of that building the responsibility to take care of the stuff within their own small boundary, that's one thing. But the homeowners association, as in all the owners, are still going to have to take care of everything else. So all the mowing, the plowing, the plantings, as approved by the commission or by the staff until, and throughout the length of time that they're there. So you don't get to put them in and a year later they die and you're done. That's not how that works. They have to be kept in a healthy condition. They have to be, I think in some cases I've seen words such as thriving, as in they're growing. They're not, dead or half dead. So we'll need to see the plantings in the way that the plan says they're supposed to be in, and we'll need to see the homeowners association requirements for keeping them alive and thriving in whatever terminology the city uses to require that.
We do have the homeowners association documents.
That was approved shortly at, like
Yeah.
you say, if it was a requirement that we had to come back, with TJ Boyle's plan
Yeah.
prior to approval, that would have happened. That was passed on, it occurred. Everything has occurred. I don't think revisiting it is in your purview.
No, I don't either, and I'll just say that it piles on we trust in the discussions that go on between staff and applicants. In this case, it feels like, everybody was kind of misled or let down and I got no authority here other than to say, okay, let's see what was really approved. Let's make sure that we get that before there's a CO. Let's fix the lights because they're driving everybody crazy. And I think that's, I would love to see the whole fence thing. I mean, you get another half story on your building, you owe me 2 more feet of fence
That's,
or something.
I would think, yeah, that we might have an argument.
I know it's not. I'm just
But
making
if
the.
it came-
I said I would like to see that.
If
That
it
was.
came in as 2-story, then you would have approved it, because you
I
had.
probably would have.
Well, you had no choice.
And I'll say again that in most districts, and I hope the city council and the public agree with the work that the planning commission did to say that it's appropriate that the planners get to see some of this stuff in other districts besides the village center, which is the only one that has design review. So when you hear a discussion about that at the city council meeting, please come out and support it and say it's important for us to maintain the character of our community by knowing what you're putting in. And that's going to include more design review and just show us what you're doing. It's only fair, right? Because most of the time, we're only allowed to get a plan. So that's my pitch. I'll leave it there. The word unfortunate keeps coming up. But, the only way to change that is to change the rules. And so we changed them. We did our work to change them. Hopefully they'll get approved by the bodies having jurisdiction, which is the city council. And the next time we see a plan, we'll be able to say, show me what it looks like. I want to see, right? In the meantime, let's see if we can get this turned around so that we're all at least happier with it instead of being totally disgruntled. So I don't know what kind of motion what kind of motion do I need? I need a motion that says we approve extending the plat filing deadline, or is that just a technicality?
You need a motion that says that, yeah.
We have a hand.
We have a hand. Thanks for keeping an eye on that. I need some help. All right.
Also,
My name is Megan Bellier. I live at 12 McGregor Street. I just have a couple of quick points, just so that I'm on the record. I was not able to appear at the last meeting. I have 2 young kids, a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and one of them was sick. And yes, our privacy has definitely been compromised. I have a photo of this window as it appears over our 6-foot fence. So the kids are playing outside all the time. We have a pool in the summertime, and our privacy was definitely compromised. And we've had to install blackout curtains so my kids can sleep because these lights are so bright. My husband had to go over at 10 o'clock this summer when there was a woman painting and had music playing and was talking on her phone. So, you know, there's definitely been some discomfort already. And before construction ever even started, I had an issue. I needed to confront a person driving an excavator or a grader. I'm not sure what the machine is called. The property boundary marking metal pins were graded underground, and he, the day after that, that was actually April 14th, it was the Monday, and the meeting for those permits to be approved actually occurred that night, and so he had done that before the approval had even happened. And the next day took a machine and started taking out trees that were incredibly close to our property. Now our fence is set back within our property by 1.5 feet so that we can maintain our fence without trespassing. And because they graded up to our fence, which was technically on our property, and the pins were buried, I called the police. I had an officer come and she said, there's nothing I can do. You have to talk to the village offices. Those pins have still not been replaced. Terry Haas and I'm sorry, I don't remember the gentleman's name, the head of the Public Works Department came and observed that there was no boundary markings. All that they have done before the plantings occurred, because we have a black walnut tree that is on the border and several oak saplings and some popple trees, I believe they're called, that we wanted to be left as a screen. So I just wanted to have that all on the record. Those pins have not been replaced, and I don't believe that's my responsibility to have it resurveyed. It shouldn't be a cost to me.
Were your plantings were they disturbed between the property line and where your fence is? Did you lose any planting?
There were just some small bushes, nothing that we had planted or invested in, but I was very concerned that we were going to lose the black walnut that was on our border, because I knew where the metal pin had been, and I had made sure that that tree that gave us a lot of screening and, you know, food for the wildlife, and my kids like to play with and collect the walnuts. But, you know, it just seemed like a total disrespect to us, and it left a really bad taste in my mouth. Going forward, I've kept my eye on a lot of the work that's gone on. And in speaking with Terry Haas, I said, you know, I wasn't at the meeting, but I was told it was going to be a shorter building, this 1.5 story, carriage house, whatever was approved. And she said, oh, well, that was changed after the warning of the public meeting. And so now, you know, I'm in doubt of what else is going to change after things have been approved. It doesn't feel fair. We've lived in that house for 10 years. We bought it because of the neighborhood and greatly appreciated the privacy that we found within the village. We know that's hard to find. It's a great school district, and raising kids here is important to us. And I just need to have these thoughts on the record. So something else I wanted to touch on was I read a planning commission letter from Robin Pierce. There are a couple of points on the plan. It doesn't seem that they've been addressed on the property. The first is that there should be a trash area with greenery surrounding it as a visual blind. It doesn't appear that there's any paved area with any fencing or greenery. It doesn't appear that there's proper parking for guests. Let's see what else. And aside from, we've already beaten this dead horse, the lighting, there has been a smoke alarm warning battery chirping for at least 2 months. And it must be the unit behind us, possibly not. Tina and Todd said they don't hear it. I hear it every minute and a half. So I have actually a photo on here that I took when the fencing discussion came up. And you can see on our side of the fence, we planted arborvitae 5 years ago when the property was sold so that we could start our green fence. And I don't know if you're interested in seeing this, if I could pass this over. This is my iPad.
You can just put it on you can see it on the
Oh.
screen.
Our 6-foot fence, and that is the first story window of, whatever part of the home that is. And I'd also like to point out that second floor, which said, when Terry said there were going to be lofts, my mind's eye pictures a loft as an open space. I saw interior walls going in. It doesn't appear to be a loft. So maybe we need to clarify the terminology when we talk about a loft so that we're all on the same page.
Was that loft description based on the previous, the story and a half version, or was that after
No,
she
that
told you
was-
they were changed?
That was after the change. That was when I spoke to Terry about getting the pins back because there was another large walnut tree that had been taken out, and I ran out to the backyard and I screamed, "Stop, don't touch another tree. You took our pins out. Don't touch anything else. I'm calling the police." And so I did. And the young lady who came said, "There's nothing I can do. You have to talk to the village offices. I can ask him to stop, but there is nothing else that I can do."
I'm sure Regina is going to hear a lot more of this, but enforcement has been a subject of debate. Like, how much do we have? What's legal? Who's doing it? Is it the village staff? Is it the police? It's been fortunately not very often, but when it comes up, it seems to still not be clear. We've been told, I guess, as the planning commission, now probably as the DRB, that we can't even field a complaint. We have to tell people just what the police officer said, which is you have to talk to the village office. So, and I've had plenty of people find me about something or other and say, I have a problem and what can you do about it? And I have to say, you have to talk to the village staff. And so that's only 2 people, that are in the planning and zoning area. And so this has been a fairly consistent issue for us over the years. And it doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, we feel like we're not really seeing things resolve. And that's kind of frustrating, and it's clearly difficult for everybody. So I'm just saying, since you're just getting a taste of a lot of this stuff at this level, it's probably something to write down on your list for, how do we go forward and resolve that? Because it will need to be addressed.
Yep, I have heard the enforcement issue quite a bit. I can say from your list, the dumpster is definitely one of those things that is on the plan, and it's not up for debate to amend the plan and take that off. It will be put in before again, COs, certificates of occupancy, are issued for the site.
Okay.
And things like the smoke alarm, I mean, that, I don't know what I would do with those. I have a pet peeve on those. And one of mine went off this weekend, but if it's not your house, I mean, and there's nobody even there, and it's obnoxious, anyway.
I mean, I think we can ask Gabe to
Yeah,
try to.
I just want to
get it
make
correct.
sure that, you know, if there's a complaint and somebody calls and, you know, the owner slash applicant slash developer slash whoever's in charge should need to be able to go, make repairs or fix the situation.
Yeah, and I'm torn to what to talk about here because this isn't a planning commission meeting
Yeah.
where we're having a debate about enforcement and what to be addressed. This is a very specific case
Exactly.
in front of the Development Review Board. So,
I'm still a holdover, I'm sorry. But you know, it's important to listen to the complaints people have. And I don't want to say I can't do anything. That just seems completely lame. Yes, Dave.
I can, as I already said, I can certainly ask tomorrow that if lights can be turned off for now, because they gotta be part of the CO.
Yeah.
And it sounds like either there's a shield missing or they're just the wrong fixture altogether.
Yeah.
And we located, our office did the property plat, we located your back pipes, the pipes that were back there. So within the next week, I can tell my surveyor tomorrow that, hey, you gotta get out there within the next week. They've got the exact locations, so they might, maybe one still there, maybe two are still there, or whatever, but they'll find out.
Neither, yeah.
And if not,
They're under dirt if they are.
he'll replace them if they're not there, but he's got the exact locations. So the question is it 6 inches under, is it 12 inches under, or is it just not there? First I've heard of that, but we'll take care of that part.
All right. I'm just going over my notes from what were the proposed stipulations from the previous meeting when we approved the project. So I'm seeing some of those same items that are on our list from tonight. So there was bike racks and bike storage stuff. So I'm gonna leave that in your hands, Regina, to make sure that before there's a CO that all of the things that are supposed to be done are taken care of and meet the village standards, which is, you know, item 2 on this. They all, whatever's done has to meet the village requirements, regardless of what got approved or changed or anything else. It still has to meet the village standards. So we'll get to the bottom of that. We'll make the applicant honor all the things that are in his approved plan that have to be done. And I'm happy to keep, in whatever capacity I'm allowed to do it, keep talking about some of these other things like fencing and lighting and screening and landscape plans. But for today, I'm thinking unless anyone has more comments, I'm thinking we have 2 things to do. One is extend the deadline, or is that all part of the same motion?
Do you have this piece of paper?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the recommendation's at the bottom there.
So the recommendation is that the Development Review Board approve the minor site plan amendment for the building elevation changes at 41 Maple Street and approve an extension to the final PUD subdivision approval to November 17th, 2022. So if we turn that into a motion, would anybody like to make that motion? I will make that motion. Can I do that
Yeah,
as the chair? I think I can.
I will second.
All right. Any further discussion? And I don't know that we need to add any further stipulations like no CO until everything is done, because that is part of the normal operations, right?
Already in place. Yeah.
Okay. So, Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. That was unanimous? All right, motion carries. I would like to say to the audience, thank you very much for coming in and letting us know, because if you don't come in, we don't know.
Well, when we got the notice and it looked like an amendment, we're thinking, oh no, what's the next thing that's changing? We needed to know that.
It's helpful. I am going to work with staff, and they're not all here. We're down some staff, as you may know. But I'm going to work with staff to make sure that communications are improved. And we'd like to be more able to respond to people who think that there's a project issue that isn't going properly.
Thank you for hearing us.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. We do have,
Item 6.
yeah, thanks. You're a good man. Other development review board items, and do we have a whole pile of things? Did I see some things in here, or is that just all the material that that I asked for?
That was all that you asked for, so, I'm not sure there are other,
I'm not sure there are either. I know there was a training. I think the training may or may not have dealt more with just the nuts and bolts of things. As far as I know, and I just want to clarify for our own purposes, that we're still working with the LDC, Land Development Code. No matter what we call ourselves, right? This is still we're still working on the version of this that everybody should have. That's
fine.
right. And
Correct.
the new one is what's the schedule on approving the new one?
so there is, one change to the version that you guys have in front of you that we'll make sure to get to you is the cannabis changes. So those were approved by the city council on September 14th, became effective October 6th. So
And
it basically swaps out the definition section and the land use table. Those are the two changed pieces. So we'll get you those.
the city council is entitled to change this whenever they want, so that updates can happen. So, and they somehow included Design Five Corners as some type of amendment or reference document, right? Can you just confirm that? Because,
So the rest of the land development code amendments that the planning commission worked on,
yeah, but
Are-
this is separate. I think that this, let me get my terminology straight. The village trustees at the time all believed that this was part of our actual planning material. And so we asked them how we would know that, because it's not actually in the LDC. And I think they made some type of a motion or resolution or something to adopt this Design Five Corners and have it be part of our planning material. And then there's a Design Five Corners implementation plan, which goes with it. This is why I'm carrying around all this paper. Because it's still somewhat unclear to me how we go from the Design Five Corners concept report to the implementation plan to the LDC and do what they want, right? Because we serve them at their,
so, I,
if you could
what
just
I-
help clarify that for us at some point.
yeah. I don't know what decision they made when that was done. I can look into that, but I do know that when you did the comprehensive plan in 2019, that was incorporated. And then the draft land development code regulations does reference those concepts.
All right, so the village comprehensive plan
Yes. This
You
this
guys
is
gotta-
very.
Visual.
Showing
What's the magic?
It's all
bag?
blank.
What's the camera?
Yeah.
The history.
Um,
the history book is
So,
right there.
so this is in effect, this is actually a vision statement that the village puts out that hopefully the LDC supports and gets us there. So if you're a developer and you're trying to do something, you want to know what we want, and then you want to know, how we do it. That's sort of the way it works. So if the design five corners got pushed into this, maybe that's how that works.
Yeah, and then we also have it in we've referenced some of the specific pieces in the land development code amendments, those are on the council's plate with many, many other things. But
That's all of this stuff? Yeah. These are all this is the draft of the revised one?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
Last year.
the council has a year from the planning commission public hearing, which was, I want to say August 4th. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was around August 4th, to take action. And hopefully they'll be able to take action, at least on parts of it, sooner than that, because I do think there's some improvements in there, certainly to the landscaping requirements, even in itself, in and of itself, let alone the expansion of the overlay district further out to the arms. So part of that, I think, is just a capacity issue, probably mostly a capacity issue for me to be able to kind of get that through their pipeline. And some of it is that it would be helpful to get a little bit more feedback on that, because if you remember, one change is duplexes and triplexes in R1 and R2 zoning districts. And that didn't have a ton of public, feedback on that. And that's something that
Another
you
density
probably-
thing there.
Yeah.
That's going to increase density and allow more development closer to, they not necessarily closer, but increase the density on certain lots that already exist. And you can see what happens when neighbors who bought a house a number of years ago have something show up in their backyard. They get agitated. We want to make sure that we are supporting these initiatives to increase the density, which is supposed to be a good thing, but it can also be a painful thing as people who are comfortable with what used to be an empty lot or a backyard that's not theirs, have something happen. It's just nature. So that'll be good to know, and the schedule is they have a year from sometime in the summer to make that. And does it have to go to regional, other communities, or no?
Nope. Other municipalities are notified, but there's no approval authority from anybody else. The Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission approves the plans, not the zoning. So your next meeting is scheduled for December 14th. And I can work on refining this script for you, John, especially script number 2.
Just, and you have the landscaping plan. Do you need this version of the?
We have it in
You
we have it in the office.
Does anybody else want it, or can I keep it?
Go ahead, it's all yours.
Bag's getting heavy.
Are you sure?
It's a historical record.
Well, I try to keep some of this stuff around just because some of it's interesting and some of it may come back again like it did tonight. So, it would be, I have a guide here on the running the meeting, and I have some things that I'm supposed to actually read, and I'll just need to use my own highlighter and boil it down till I get what I want. But it's a little obnoxious that I have to read the rules for a hybrid meeting at theoretically every hybrid meeting. And it's almost like I want to scroll them at the bottom of the screen, while I have a drink of water or something, and let everybody else
Right.
deal
So
with
when
them.
you log in, it's there.
Yeah.
Read them.
Like the thing that says this is being recorded, you can
Yep.
Maybe we can get one of our techies to do the, like the opening credits from Star Wars, where they just scroll up the.
I think we can probably streamline both these significantly.
And has everybody signed the ethics policy? Or is that something?
Do we have to, is there, I think
Did that
probably
initially?
met
Oh,
the
okay.
HR. woman, whose
Oh,
name
okay, I
I
think,
forget.
yeah, I think I signed that, yes. That's Colleen. I think I have a thing where I can tell this relatively quickly.
And I'll say it's a pleasure to have you all on the board with me, and look forward to more meetings. More,
So-
some of them are more fun.
Can I ask a question just about
Yeah.
the lighting? Is that okay if I ask?
This lighting?
No, the light, well, this
Oh.
lighting or just lighting in general that came up in the meeting. Because I know we're supposed to refer to the code if we're going to say anything. I know the lighting thing would be impactful to me as well. And I thought that there was a code for, at least for schools, that lighting of, I'm thinking association, since that is an association, that maybe it would follow the same as a school. Because I live across the street from a school and there was a lighting issue and the lights go off at a certain time. And so they did change, like, the whole lighting, the actual lights that they put in, they have to face down, so they're not like. But there was an issue, and I think that there was a code. I was like trying to figure out what code it was, but I'm pretty sure there was like a code having to do with schools or like businesses. That lights like that go off.
There's several.
Okay.
There.
So I didn't know if that would apply to like an association grouping.
Think to yourself, if you're bugging someone else with your lights, you're probably not doing something right.
Yeah, okay.
So most municipalities have adopted either the dark sky standards, or
Okay.
there's a number of model lighting codes that apply for
Yeah.
what's acceptable foot candles, where you
Yeah.
can see it from, how much the light can bleed out on. Because it's kind of like, it's like water and sound and light.
Yeah.
If you could magically make all of them stop at your property line so that your neighbors weren't affected, that would be ideal. Well, they say that in the water piece, right? So they, like, if you're doing whatever your development does, it can't modify with water so that it goes off your property any more than it does now, right? So, but sound and light are tougher to regulate, but, the general theory is the same. You don't want to bother people with your lights or noise. So, noise is either measured by volume or by time of day, right? So you can be so loud up until such and such a time, and then, right? So lights are kind of like that too. You can have so many foot candles until such and such a time, and then they usually set like 10 o'clock lights out.
Yeah.
Or they step down from like a illumination of enough to keep people safe walking to their car to just barely enough to see anything, but not enough to really bother people. So it's hard, we can say whatever we want. We can get a foot candle map and we can see what they've proposed, and then when they actually show up, and this, or you get somebody that mounts one of these motion censored floodlights on their garage, and every time the cat walks by, well, those aren't actually legal, but they happen. And so, it's good when the neighbors come in and say, hey, well, they're going to come in. They're not necessarily going to come talk to us. They may go to city council. They may come to, planning and zoning, but somebody's going to complain if it's really obnoxious.
But I guess my question was, I think there is a code that
There is a
says-
code.
Yeah, I don't know that answer.
Oh,
So there's two totally different worlds of things. You have your land development code, which is called a code, but mostly it's your zoning regulations. Then there's another whole other world of municipal ordinances.
okay. That's what I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
and those have some of the things like a noise time period, and I forget what that is, but we do have that. And something like 7 a.m. to some other time at night, there's not supposed to be excessive noise beyond those time periods. I am unaware of a code that requires that nighttime lighting goes off at a certain point. That doesn't mean it's not there, but I'm unaware of
Oh,
that.
for school, for like a school or
Yeah.
a business, not for like
That's usually,
residential
Yeah.
it's pretty common, and often is negotiated during, project's approval.
yeah.
You know, like, you're not gonna put those parking lot lights on all night long.
Yeah, I think,
you know?
I mean, because this was like several years ago at the school, there was neighbors that had an issue with the, and there was, I think it's an ordinance, I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's not a code, it's an ordinance that it was, we were in the right. 'Cause
Yeah.
there was an ordinance that said, so now they go off at a certain time.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, and it is, it's a little bit different which is gonna regulate what, and, because some of the stuff that lands more in the, ordinance side of things is much more of that public nuisance. Noise is too loud, you know, lighting is extreme, you know, those kinds of things. Whereas the land development code addresses things in a different kind of way.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
All light fixtures shall be hooded or shielded and directed downward at a 60 degrees to horizontal unless otherwise approved. Shall have concealed light sources. Light sources shall not be visible at property lines. So they got a little work to do on those lights. Those are
Yeah.
bright.
Yep.
Lighting devices may not produce direct or reflected glare on adjoining properties or streets. All private residential exterior light sources shall be dark sky compliant. Now, most people that throw those motion sensor lights up on their houses have no idea. And, you know, they could be, if they're angled down properly, dark sky compliant, but most people wouldn't have any idea that A, there's a rule, and B, they have to comply with it. And so it takes somebody driving by to go, hey, you know, that's, anyway, so we're reading 704, lighting on page 118 of the LDC to find all that stuff. And then roadways and other streets and so forth have a completely separate set of standards to follow. But there are lots of lighting standards available out there. And, yeah. Any other questions tonight? Do we have an agenda for our next meeting already? Are there applications coming before us?
Yeah, there are 2 applications, I believe. I can never remember the address of the one of them, and I don't actually know what it's about. And then you also have an appeal for a denial of a home occupation for tier 1 cannabis cultivation.
And this is I may have heard this gentleman come before us and tell us he was going to ask for permission. And he's got an existing growing operation and he wants to make it bigger. Is that
I think you're probably thinking of a different
a
person.
different person? Okay. All right, so you'll maybe need to walk us through the appeal procedures or just send us what we're supposed to look at, because that was probably a ZBA activity before, so some of us are new to that.
Yeah. And,
I was on the zoning board.
yeah,
Hello. Yay.
I didn't hear that.
yep.
Maybe it was during COVID. I missed it.
Yeah, this is a brand new thing. Yeah, we will figure out how that is staffed. I was acting zoning administrator at the time, so I'm the person who denied the home occupation. I can't defend my decision in front of you. So we'll figure that out some way,
But
shape or form.
at some point, we get a package that says, here was the application, here was the denial, here's the denial, these are the applicable rules, codes, ordinances, whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. I'm looking forward, I mean, I've been through DRB things from the applicant side a number of times. But now that this is our first real DRB quasi judicial meeting, this one.
Yeah.
And so any application that we get is all new to this board. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess there's a procedure, like some applications for development will come through requiring variances or other things in order to be approved, and we'll have to do all of those because now one body can do all of them. So, which is supposed to be a good thing because it streamlines. You don't have to go to the ZBA and then come back and go to the planning commission. So that's why DRBs are generally created. And even though we're just doing it, it's 70 to 80% of the state does it that way, right? DRBs.
I don't know that off the top of
I
my
heard
head,
that.
but that sounds about right.
I heard that statistic from somebody that most of the state is already DRB. Yeah. All right, great. A motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn?
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.